You're listening to the Profile Netcasting Network, brought to you by Mr. Taxes. You're listening to Walk the Talk with Allan Knight.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to, I'm not going to say Night Talk because I'm calling my program Walk the Talk Radio. It's a new name of my show. Night Talk is Night Talk. It sounds like you're talking and it's a night show and it's all about you know what. But Walk the Talk Radio is really how I'm branding myself. As a matter of fact, Walk the Talk training are my training programs. And I'm making a point. Every week we have the show here down in Gastown at the Profile at 375 Water Street in beautiful Vancouver. If you haven't been in Vancouver, you got to visit not only Vancouver and see the beautiful ocean and mountains and nature, but also come visit a water. I keep saying Water Street Profile, Mike, but it's called the Profile. Right? The Profile.
It's the Profile.
It's a co-work. But by the way, let me introduce my great producer, Mike Zahora. Do they see you, Mike, or not?
No, I'm behind the camera.
That's the good news, ladies and gentlemen. He's behind the camera. He's actually a really good-looking guy. But he produces a show every week, and this is about empowering entrepreneurs, remaining centered, confident, and productive in this chaotic world, in this complex world of us. You know, more and more people are in their own business, getting into their own business, are seeking entrepreneurship, are in small biz. And, you know, it's not easy. It can be tough going. And there are a lot of talk shows and a lot of seminars. But here, our focus and why we call it Walk the Talk Radio is because we're more interested in practical solutions and how you could ensure your success with a strong mind, a confident speech, and consistent action. So it's inner fitness, communicate with impact, and taking consistent action. So that's really our theme. Every week we try to touch on one of these areas. And today we're really excited because every week we have a guest expert. And today we have an amazing guy who's been in the franchising industry for a long time. I've known him for many years. He's a great guy. At least he tells me he's a great guy. Just kidding. He is a great guy. And he is a franchise expert, and he's going to talk to us about the power and the effectiveness of franchising. I'm really excited about that because I was introduced to franchising many moons ago, and I haven't really seen him for a while, and I don't know that much about franchising. So I think we're going to learn, I know we're going to learn a lot. And then you're going to take some action because you're going to end up calling this fine gentleman for some more information. I have a feeling at the end. So his name is Grant Bullington from FranNet, and in a few minutes we'll more formally introduce. Mike, how are you this week?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Alan?
You sound good. You look good. You sound good. You've gone through my training program, obviously.
That's it.
That's it. Well,
that's the solution right there.
You know, we've created a monster. Things are good?
Good.
Well, excellent. So today, before we introduce Grant, I always like to have my little few minutes as a coach here. And I always like to use personal experiences of during the week of some of my clients, some of my friends, some of my colleagues. And I was on the phone with no less than two or three real estate companies who have invited me to come in to speak with their realtors at their sales meeting. And I asked the owner of the company, I said, these people have been in business anywhere from 2 to 20 years. What are some of the main issues that are holding them back? And then he listed the same things, of course, that I've been hearing for years. Well, they're not self-motivated enough. They're procrastinating. They're not picking themselves up and getting out and doing all the little things they have to do. And I've been hearing this for years. And for equal number of years, they've been bringing in speakers and trainers and coaches. So I said to him, look, you're going to love this talk because I focus on three pillars of success to be successful as an entrepreneur. I talked about, and you might have heard of this before, but I'm going to go over it again because it's so critical. 3 pillars. 1, inner power. If we're not coming from a mindset, if we're not coming from a strong sense of mental toughness, confidence, assertiveness, passion, enthusiasm, if we're not coming from that state of being, we're now decreasing not only our motivation level, but our productivity level. Would you agree, Mike, if I called you up or met you and I say, it's really exciting to meet you, Mike. I'd like to offer you an opportunity to buy my fantastic, great program. Would I be diminishing my possibility of making the sale?
Oh, yeah, I'd already be saying, like, oh, something's burning on the stove. Let me get out of here.
Right. Where did that come from? That came not because I don't have a great product or service. It didn't come from the fact that I don't have experience and knowledge. It came from the fact that I'm not releasing my full power from the inside out. So inner power is crucial element to ensure our long-term success as an entrepreneur. And if you want more tips and clips about that, go to my website, AllanKnight.com, ALLANKNIGHT.com. Sign up. You get some free tips and other things. Second, action and accountability. The managers kept talking about procrastination, being scattered, being off track. And that is critical to our success because not only do we need to have a strong inner confidence, but we also need to be willing to do all the little things every day to make it happen. That's called action. That's called accountability. That's called time management. That's called prioritization. And unless we're acting on those things consistently, we're letting things through the cracks, and it will limit our success. Finally, number C for communication. If we have a very strong inner sense and inner confidence, communicating with passion and enthusiasm and projecting that, and we're taking consistent action, now we have to master the simple, not so simple, art of communicating effectively every day. So if I call Mike Zahora because I need his video production company, I need to call him, if I'm selling him my service, I need to call him, and I have to have some words. For sure, I'm going to put some words together that are going to make sense and are appealing to him. And I have to make sure that I'm communicating in such a way that will pique his interest in perhaps using my service. That's called a cold call or a warm phone call. Then I have to get out networking. If Grant invites me to a networking event at a trade show where there are all kinds of franchising opportunities, then I'm going to walk around. I'm going to have my business cards. I need to network. I need to connect. I need to be personable. I need to be a good listener. I need to know how to interact and ask good questions and respond to the appropriate personality types. And all of these things, public speaking, they all require mastering to some degree our communication skills. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a product or service out there, or you're about to launch a product or service, if you pay attention to these critical 3 modules or 3 pillars of success for entrepreneurs, there is no way you will get off track from achieving your goal. And of course, if you need some help, you just call us at Allan Knight, email us at allan@allanknight.com. If you want a complimentary consultation, give us a call at 604 area code 720-3177 or email us through our website at allanknight.com. That's my rant of the week. Sounds good, Mike?
Sounds great.
So, Walk the Talk Radio with Allan Knight every Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time from the most incredible place in Vancouver called The Profile, which is a co-working office space. Kevin Penstock, owner, and Kevin is a visionary and understands that we're living at a time where more and more people getting into business, small biz for themselves, need to have the support of other business owners. And when you come into this environment, and I'm going to ask Grant what he thinks, because when he came in, I have a feeling it was the first time he came in. I think he was quite impressed. And it's a great environment. It's beautiful. It's cozy. Have bricks all over the place. It's like a chalet style. Some people are here full-time in office space. Other people rent the space for training and seminars. Other people use it for a multitude of other services. So check out The Profile. Is the website is it a new website?
Profile.ca.
Oh, good. Okay, so profile.ca is the brand new website. Check it out, and there are pictures there.
Yeah. So it's theprofile.ca.
Oh, theprofile.ca. Theprofile.ca. Check it out. You'll see what I mean. And then email a question if you have, or you want to contact Kevin. He's so busy he may not be able to talk to himself, but there's a multitude of people that will help you.
Yeah, just a quick note, though, the website is being developed as we speak right now, so might be a little...
Is there an older website they can go to, the Water Street Profile?
Water Street Profile is the older one, yeah.
Okay, so waterstreetprofile.com.
Yes.
Okay, good. Excellent, good. We're going to introduce our friend Grant Bullington. Now, Grant, I'm not going to say too much about your background. You have an extensive background. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again.
Grant, you've been in the franchising industry for how many years now?
9.
Did you say none or 9?
9.
I got scared for a second that we had the wrong guest.
No, 9 years.
9 years. Okay. I always like to start this way. Before we get right into franchising, describing it, and talking about, we have some really cool questions for you. Why don't you take a few minutes to introduce yourself, tell us a bit about your background, and how it came to be that you got into the franchising industry.
Okay. Well, once we talk about what it is specifically that we'll do, though, we'll see that there's a little bit of irony to it all. So I first got into franchising when I decided to work for the company 1-800-GOT-JUNK as a franchise recruiter. And I'll admit, I didn't know all that much about franchising and thought it was all just fast food and retail. And so for me, it was like this immersion into what we would consider a service-based business. So spent the first 2.5 years there recruiting franchisees. So these were folks who, saw the trucks, read about us in the newspaper, saw us on TV, and they'd call us up. And I was on part of the team that would be qualifying these folks as well as educating them to see if they'd be a good fit. And then actually went on to oversee the entire franchise development department. And then this little recession started coming along. And usually one of the trends that we see is that once a recession starts to hit is, confidence really goes down. That people think, I'm not going to go buy my business right now. And so in probably the middle of 2008 is when we saw a real slowdown. There was also some corporate restructuring that was happening. And so I was inevitably let go of part of an essential large round of layoffs at GOT-JUNK. And so I'll admit, November of 2008, it's kind of a scary time to be unemployed, and nobody was interested in seeing my resume. Nobody was calling me up looking for interviews, and so I had known about FranNet before because we'd worked with this group at GOT-JUNK, and just so happened to learn that the owner of the British Columbia FranNet office really wasn't doing much with it, and offered me the opportunity to buy it. So.
Wow. Now, was GOT-JUNK as a franchise as well?
It is, yes.
So are you saying that you basically learned a lot about the franchising industry while you were working at that particular company?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Now, when I hear the word franchising, let's get right into it. When I hear the word franchising, and I remember years and years ago, about the same time I was introduced to the network marketing industry, I was around the time that I was introduced to the franchising industry. When I, and maybe others, think of the word franchise, we think, oh, that's like McDonald's. Oh, that's going to cost a lot of money. Oh, that's not for the average person, which I'm assuming it's not. Is that basically so that the franchising industry is for a select number of entrepreneurs who don't want to work in the typical corporate world? They're certainly not home-based business people. They have capital behind them, and they have a unique product or service, and franchising is a perfect fit for them. Would that describe it?
Yeah, I mean, there's different levels in franchising. Like, if you want to buy a Four Seasons hotel, that's a franchise. And, I'm not typically dealing with folks who have that investment capacity or interest. It tends to be folks who are, want to look at a kind of a safe alternative to just going back into corporate and getting a job.
Right.
They've got some skill sets. They've got some capital, but it tends to not be a lot, or they don't need as much as they typically expect, because we're not going to be looking at a McDonald's franchise. And so as a result, we don't need, the $2 million of what it would cost as a total investment for that.
Right.
And then I think a lot of people just, they think McDonald's and expensive, and there's this sort of, I almost equate it to like a timeshare icky feeling that's basically it's a hangover from the 80s. When franchising, there was no regulations. And so there's lots of stories about people coming in and getting promised that they'd make millions of dollars, and at the end of the day, they didn't, and there was kind of no recourse for them. And so I think that there's a lot of people who just assume that, franchising's got this dark side.
Right. Now, what do people do? First of all, how do you meet the people that are interested? Do you put ads in? Do they call you? Is it word of mouth? And when they sit down with you, I'm assuming that you have, aside from telling them what you do, you must have some form of assessment or evaluation to determine if franchising is for them. Would that be the case?
Yeah, basically it's conversations and how they come to me.
Before you answer, this is sounding a little echoish. Is that okay? Am I sounding okay? No problem? Go ahead.
So to answer your question about how they find me, oftentimes we're a resource for career transition specialists or career coaches. So when they're working with somebody one-on-one who suggests that, hey, maybe I'd like to own my own business, they suggest, well, why don't you call FranNet, or why don't you have a conversation with Grant? And that's usually how it starts. Or they'll just find me on the internet, or I have past clients refer their friends and family to me as well. So, and it starts off with a conversation because I'm really looking for, do they have kind of the necessary skill sets for us to invest some more time to even explore this further?
What are those skill sets?
Well, usually franchisors are looking for some blend of sales, leadership, customer service, management, communication, as you point out, is usually quite important. And they have to have just an overall, business savvy.
Do you have any leads for me?
Maybe.
Go ahead.
So we're really just looking for kind of a blend of that.
Right.
Maybe it's on their resume, maybe it's other experience that they've had that's been, outside of their main focus of their career.
So what you're saying is if you determine right off the bat that they don't have the skill set, you don't want to waste their time nor your time.
No.
Correct? So how long does it take to pass that test where you discern, okay, this person does have the skill? Does that happen pretty quickly?
I have a pretty keen sense of, whether or not somebody's got like what we call it the street smarts or the get it factor for some of the key areas in business. And it might be sales or it might be marketing. It might be, how to build a team or this kind of understanding of customer service.
Right.
Sometimes that just like really comes across. And this is where I can borrow from my experience. Because when I was at Got Junk, I worked with about 10,000 prospects who were interested in buying that business, and my job was to sniff out the ones who were, worthy of going further in our investigation process, and eliminate the ones that we just had to close their file.
Now, when these people come to see you, do most of them know already the type of product or service they want to be in, or is that the discovery process that you take them through?
Discovery process. Usually they are coming to me and they're kind of scared. They've never considered themselves owning a business before. Never considered owning a franchise, but they're kind of worried about their options. They're just, nobody's returning their calls. Nobody's returning my calls when I was looking for a job either, or they're just not finding the positions because they've been eliminated. Ageism, it's surprising to see how early it is onsetting for some folks.
Right.
So they just want to know, like, hey, what's out there? What does it look like? And how do I go about researching it? And so sometimes it's just to explain, like, this is what I do.
Right. When you look at all the people that you've worked with over the 9 years, and you were to look at the various categories of franchises, like restaurants, could you break it down and say 30% of your clients got into the restaurant franchises, 20%? Is it too wide ranging?
Well, it's pretty hard to just have all the stats in terms of where they're getting in. 0% of my clients got into restaurants.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Is that surprising, Mike?
That's surprising, yeah.
That surprises me.
So I just got back from a conference where we basically spent FaceTime with all the franchisors that we represent.
Yeah.
And I work with about 75 different franchise companies, and they're looking for local talent in the marketplace. And so that's why they turn to me versus having to get on planes and come to trade shows here or advertise, because that used to work, but it doesn't anymore.
Right.
So I spend my FaceTime with them understanding who makes a great franchisee in your system. How do I know when I'm sitting in front of them? What do I need them to tell about your business? And then how can I best coach them through the research?
So without telling me names, could you tell me the industries that you have worked with?
Yeah, like
if not restaurants, then what?
Yeah, generally we break it down into there's primarily consumer services. So home services is a pretty broad category, but it's basically any business where you look at the commodity as time and convenience. So it is, you get to play golf because you're paying somebody to either paint your house or clean your house or take your junk away or do your yard work, and do home maintenance is a fairly popular category there. Business services, that's a huge category and one that we see a lot of appeal for.
Give me an example. What do you mean by that, business service?
Okay, if you're a large organization, you can probably take and walk around your facility and see, well, there's marketing over there, and there's HR there, and there's our social media folks over there, and there's accounting and payroll. If you walk around your small company, and what if it's just you don't have those other departments, but you do need those services performed in your business.
Right.
So pretty much you can take all those and other categories, and you're going to find very targeted, specific business opportunities in those cases.
And how does that relate to franchising?
Well, they're franchised business opportunities.
Oh, so you're saying, let's say somebody is a virtual assistant training other virtual assistants. That person, the leader, could literally create a company around franchising virtual assistants. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So, and another popular category that we've got is in the online marketing. So anything to do with online marketing, which is, if you're not doing that you're in business, you're kind of dead in the water.
Right.
But how do you do it? What do you need to do? How do you need to, get kind of immersed in it? It's the sort of thing that most entrepreneurs don't have the time to allocate to become experts in it or proficient enough and have the time to be doing it on an ongoing basis, so you pay a company to do it for you.
Does that mean a gentleman like Mike Sahora, who's a video production company, could he franchise his business, and if so, how?
I'd have to learn more about the business first.
Right. But let's say you sat down with him. What would determine that he could franchise his company? What would be those key elements?
Well, what we'd want to see is, okay, what does the kind of competitive landscape look like? What are the unique selling propositions for the service, and how can we kind of package and tie that in?
Right.
And, you know, it may or may not be franchisable. I don't know.
Good. Well, we'll ask him after.
Sure.
We're going to take a break, and then we're going to close with the last number of questions I have for you. Fascinating, right, Mike? Do you have any questions?
Nope.
No? I just want to remind everyone you are listening to Walk the Talk Radio with Allan Knight, radio plus TV, because we're being filmed as well. Every Thursday afternoon, 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time here at The Profile in beautiful downtown Gastown. We're with Grant Bullington, who owns a company called FranNet. So you own the company, right?
Well, I'm actually a franchisee myself. So I'm part of an organization. It's franchised. We're headquartered out of Louisville, Kentucky, and we own our offices. They're virtual,
Okay.
but we have territories in either metros, states, or provinces. And so I've got British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And so I'm working with folks in all through Western Canada to explore their options.
Great. We're talking to Grant about the whole arena of franchising. He has been in this industry for many, many years. And it's quite fascinating because both Mike and I were quite surprised that with all the clients he's had over the years, not one is restaurant related. It's kind of incredible. So what are some of the most popular franchises these days? Would it be like internet marketing? Would that be?
It tends to be a popular one. You know, typically, like if I were to look and see, you know, one of the things that when I'm asking somebody, what's your investment range? So what are you comfortable investing? Usually I'm hearing, you know, if we can do this under 100 or if we can do this for under 200 tends to be the threshold. And this has nothing to do with what somebody's investment capacity is I think that us Canadians are fairly conservative and we just want to take a, you know, the lowest risk approach to getting into business possibly. So we really focus on matching folks up with opportunities kind of at that level.
Right.
So typically what we see is that, again, you know, all the host of business services tend to be really popular because what we typically see is that they're essential services for other small businesses. They're not a discretionary spend. Right. And a lot of companies, especially in places where you've got such a predominant number of small businesses that, you know, can't afford to have all these components in-house. They just can't justify them.
Right. What would you say is the top 2 or 3 attractive features for someone entering into that industry? Obviously, one of them is money potential. Okay, but besides the money potential, is it the idea that they can leverage themselves and don't have to be a one-man or one-woman show?
Yeah, that tends to be something that folks really gravitate towards, is that if they can have a business that they don't have to like jump in the deep end right first, is that they can start relatively small and it might be, you know, 1 or 2 staff and eventually grow it over time. And this is one of the reasons why I had folks say no to food, because, you know, you're going to have the same number of employees on, you know, your 30-year anniversary in your restaurant as you did on first day. So unless you've had and managed, you know, 60 to 80 staff, it's going to be pretty overwhelming. And so lots of times we see folks want to have a business that just you start with 2.
Have you done any coffee shops?
No.
Okay. So let's say, I being in Vancouver, I'm convinced, Mike, I don't know if you agree with me, but if you and I opened up a coffee shop tomorrow called Al Mike Coffee Shop, Big Al Mike Coffee Shop, and we chose a relatively cool place because every 2 blocks there seemed to be a coffee shop. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of confidence that we could probably get a lot of people in there drinking coffee. So let's say Mike and I came to you and said, we want to franchise Mike Al Coffee Shops.
I would send you to somebody else. I really focus on being a matchmaker for somebody who says, can you help me buy a franchise that I'm going to operate?
But so we'd have to already have a franchise, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say we have a franchise. So in other words, what you say, you are the one that would bring potential clients that won't come to you and say, we want a coffee shop.
Possibly. But usually what I would ask them, you know, a few questions about, you know, tell me why you'd like a coffee shop. And usually they skip the whole part about the fact that, I don't know if you've ever seen the hours on the coffee shop door. That kind of dictates the hour of a coffee shop owner, especially in the first few years.
Yeah, so it's a tough grind.
Yeah, pardon the pun. But no, it's like...
It's a really tough grind.
Yeah, and so this is when we're, you know, asking people about the features that they may prefer in a business. again, we come back to a lot of different, home services or service-based businesses because you run a maid franchise. Nobody wants their house cleaned on a Saturday. You run a sales training franchise. Nobody calls you up on Sunday and says, I need training right now. And so lots of times those businesses are really Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
Right.
So that tends to be, that's when we start to put a checkbox in the lifestyle column versus the lifestyle prevention column.
So what you're saying, in a sense, is your target audience are existing franchises.
Well, on one side, because there's
you're matchmaking.
Yes.
So in other words, you're looking for people that own franchises, and you're looking for people who want to own a franchise of a franchise.
Yeah, and I don't really need any help for franchised companies, like looking for
You
them.
have plenty of those.
We have tons of those. We actually turn away most of the ones that come to us for representation.
So let's say Mike Zahora comes to you. He said, I want a franchise. You give him a list. You see where there's a fit, and you say, I think this homemade service business would be perfect for you. Then you direct him to that person.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously have to know a lot more about his situation, his investment, what his skill sets are, his preferences, and we all talk this through. And it may be that a business that is like a home cleaning franchise would be a perfect fit for him, or it may be that we look in another direction.
Right, but if you go that direction, who pays you the commission? The company?
The franchisor would pay me the fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this person doesn't pay you at all?
No.
Okay, good. Very, very interesting. As we're running at a racetrack, but one of my last questions before you tell people how to get in touch with you is, what would you say, knowing about franchises and people who run them, what are the biggest pitfalls, not pitfalls, but what are the things that are holding them back from being most successful? The difference between highly successful franchises and a lot less successful franchises?
Well, what you talk about action and accountability, I think that really comes into play. And, in my experience, having been on the inside of a franchise and to see, two people sign a franchise agreement roughly at the same time and they both go on completely different trajectories,
right,
is why is one successful and why is not?
Yeah.
And oftentimes it sees that they're just not following the systems the way they should. They're not working as hard as they possibly should.
So you like My Name Walk the Talk for that reason?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so you see, the listeners, the reason this is a very unique show that we have produced by Mike Zahora is this is not just a talk show. Nobody could watch, nobody can listen unless they take action. So the people out there must contact you if they're looking for a franchise.
Yeah.
How do they do that?
They can go on our website, www.frannet.com, and that's FRANNET.com. And if you punch in your postal code, you'll come to the appropriate consultant's website, and all of our contact info is listed on there.
Mike, I'm sure you'll agree with me. We have a lot of guests, and you kept your answers focused. You spoke well, and so I want to acknowledge you for that. And it was great having you on. We'll have to have you back on again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
But thank you for coming, man.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Just to wrap up here, every week at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time here at The Profile in beautiful downtown Gastown, Walk the Talk Radio with Allan Knight. I hope you enjoyed today's show with great Grant Bullington and the producer Mike Zahora, who's here working behind the scenes every week, setting things up, and we're really appreciative. We're appreciative to Mr. Taxes, who is one of the sponsors of this event and this show. And, of course, Kevin Penstock at The Profile. So you guys have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing you all next week. Take care. Bye for now.